The Galactic Council's archives contained 17 million documented species. Of those, 2,847 had attempted the trial of Kepler 442c. The survival rate was precisely 0%. Commander Zixathala of the Hegemony reviewed the data one final time as her transport approached the infamous world. Every species that had landed on the trial planet had fallen to its merciless environment within solar cycles. The acidic storms that could melt through starship hulls, the predatory vegetation that could think and coordinate attacks, the gravity fluctuations that could crush a being one moment and launch them into orbit the next. Madness, she whispered, her four eyes scanning the report. The humans had not only survived, they had requested a diplomatic visit. The human ship Persistence had landed on Kepler 442c 18 standard months ago. Unlike the others, there had been no distress signals, no final transmissions, no debris fields for salvage crews to find. Just silence. Until 3 days ago, when a cheerful message had arrived at Council headquarters. Howdy. Marcus Chen, here from the Trial Planet Colony. We've got the place pretty well sorted out now. If any Council representatives want to drop by for a visit, we've got hot coffee and Maria's famous apple pie. Fair warning, though. Mind the welcome mat. We're still working out some kinks with the local flora. Zixthala's ship descended through atmosphere that had dissolved the titanium hulls of Vaxian dreadnoughts. Her instruments screamed warnings about acid concentrations and electromagnetic interference. Through the viewing port, she could see the roiling storm clouds that had spelled doom for so many before. But something was different. The storms seemed organized, channeled. As they broke through the cloud layer, Zixthala's mouth fell open. Where satellite imagery had shown only hellish wilderness, a small settlement now thrived. Gardens with earth plants grew in neat rows, somehow flourishing in soil that should have been barren poison. A modest wooden cabin sat at the center, smoke rising peacefully from its chimney. A human figure waved enthusiastically from the porch. "Permission to land?" came a warm voice over the comm. "We've got a nice flat spot cleared for you right next to the herb garden. Oh, and don't worry about the atmospheric readings. We've got that sorted." The ship touched down gently on what appeared to be a perfectly normal landing pad. As the boarding ramp lowered, Zixthala's sensors detected something impossible. The atmosphere was breathable. Not just for humans, but for her species as well. Marcus Chen bounded over with the enthusiasm of someone welcoming neighbors to a barbecue, rather than the sole survivor of humanity's most dangerous expedition. He was a surprisingly ordinary-looking human, middle-aged, wearing what appeared to be a flannel shirt and work boots with soil under his fingernails. "Commander, great to finally meet you in person. Hope the trip wasn't too rough. The local weather system can be a bit dramatic, but we've been working with it." He gestured toward the storm clouds above, which seemed to be moving indistinctly. Unnatural patterns. "Turns out you just need to ask nicely." "Ask nicely?" Zixthala's translator struggled with the concept. "Oh, sure. The storms are actually a form of atmospheric consciousness. They were just lonely, you know? Been throwing tantrums for millennia because nobody ever bothered to introduce themselves properly. A little communication goes a long way." As they walked toward the cabin, Zixthala noticed the predatory vegetation from the reports. The carnivorous vines that had consumed entire expeditions were indeed present, but they seemed domestic. They waved gently as the pair passed, and one even offered what appeared to be a flower. "That's Vinny," Marcus explained. "Bit of a show-off, but he makes excellent windbreaks. The whole plant network here just needed some proper gardening technique. Turns out most problems can be solved with good composting and regular watering." Schedules. The cabin interior was impossibly cozy. A fire crackled in the hearth, bookshelves lined the walls, and the smell of baking filled the air. A woman emerged from what must have been the kitchen, wiping flour from her hands. "Maria Chen," she introduced herself. "Hope you're hungry. I just pulled a pie from the oven." "But the gravity fluctuations," Zixthala protested weakly. "The tectonic instability. The radiation storms." Marcus scratched his head thoughtfully. "Well, the gravity thing was just the planet's way of exercising. We set up a schedule, morning calisthenics, Afternoon rest period. Works great. As for the tectonics, turns out the planet was just itchy. Needed some good deep core massage therapy. And the radiation? That was actually the planet trying to communicate. We installed some translation software, and now we have lovely chats about stellar formations. Through the window, Zixthala could see other impossible sights. Atmospheric storms were watering the gardens with precise timing. Gravity wells were being used to power a homemade hydroelectric system. What the reports had called dimensional rifts were apparently serving as convenient storage spaces. How was all Zixthala could manage. Maria set down a steaming slice of pie and a cup of coffee that somehow tasted exactly like Zixthala's favorite homeworld beverage. Honey, we're from Minnesota. We've dealt with worse weather than this. And Marcus here used to be a therapist, before he took up terraforming. The secret, Marcus added, settling into his chair, is that everything just wants to be understood. This planet wasn't trying to kill anyone. It was just scared and acting out. Same as any living thing, really. You show it some patience, some respect, maybe bring a casserole to break the ice, and before you know it, you're the best of friends. As if to emphasize the point, the cabin shook slightly, but instead of the violent tremors that had toppled previous expeditions, it felt more like a contented sigh. There she goes, Marcus said fondly. The planet's getting sleepy. She usually takes a little nap about this time of day. Zixthala looked around at the impossible scene, the cozy cabin, the thriving garden, the tamed apocalypse outside the windows. In her report, she would struggle to explain how humans had succeeded, where 2,147 other species had failed. The answer, she suspected, wasn't in their technology or their adaptability. It was in their peculiar ability to look at a hostile universe and think, you know what this needs? A nice cup of coffee and someone to listen. More pie? Maria asked, sweetly as reality-warping storms gently watered the tomatoes outside.